Coleman Hawkins has been the talk of the NBA Combine this week in Chicago, and either way has earned himself a lot of money playing basketball next season. But Illini fans, whether he plays in the NBA or if he comes back to college, I'm here to tell you that next year he will not be playing for the Fighting Illini. And you know what? That's okay. Locked on Illini.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Illini, where you are locked on to the Fighting Illini. My name is Sunny Verma, and who am I? Well, stay tuned, and I'll tell you a little bit about it myself a little later. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Illini your first listen today and every single day moving forward, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, like the video, and comment anything below. If you're a first-time watcher, again, just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're a returning viewer, well, you're lying to me because this is the first ever episode, but I won't get mad at you if you just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's grow this channel together. Locked On Illini. My name is Sunny Verma, and as I said in the open, we're going to talk a little Coleman Hawkins today. He's kind of made himself the talk of Chicago and the NBA Combine. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, I want to be clear that I'm a big Coleman Hawkins fan. And if you follow me on IlliniCast, if you're familiar with me, I've been in the Illini scene for a little bit. I've always talked about how he's a master troll. And very recently, I actually put him on my Mount Rushmore of all-time favorite Illini. I got a little pushback on that, saying, come on, did you just start watching Illini basketball a couple of years ago? He's not one of the 4 best players in the last decade. And honestly, that's not what I meant when I said that. Coleman Hawkins is going to hold a very special place in my heart as an Illini fan because his journey through the ranks is one that I don't know is ever going to be repeated moving forward. Coleman, as a freshman, started 0 games. He played in 25 of them. He averaged 1 point per game in 6 minutes as a freshman. As a sophomore, he played 19 minutes per game, and he averaged almost 6 points per game himself. There are rumors then that maybe his play style and Brad Underwood's coaching was going to clash a little bit, that Coleman Hawkins might consider going back out west and playing closer to home where he's from, which is Sacramento. But he didn't. He stuck around. Junior year, he started all 33 games he played in. Averaged 10.6 rebounds. Obviously, last year, 12 points, 6 rebounds in 31 minutes. And he got Big Ten notoriety. He was one of the faces of the conference this year. Coleman's that rare player in college basketball that played seldomly and then just kind of continued to get better every single year in college basketball. Now what happens? In today's day and age, a freshman doesn't play the amount of minutes he thinks he deserves to play. He's already got 1 foot out the door, and the season isn't even over yet. It's all about money. It's all about maximizing what your self-perception is. Coleman was never that guy. Coleman's played 4 seasons with the Fighting Illini, and he only has another season left because of the whole COVID year. Obviously, he wants to make it to the NBA. This is his second time at the Combine. Last year, obviously, he decided to come back, and he's made it pretty clear that he's looking to stay in the draft this year. A reporter actually asked him, whether he wanted to stay in the NBA or stay in college or go to the NBA. And he talked about how he was basically looking for a guaranteed deal in the NBA, and that's what he was looking for in order for him to stay. Someone asked him, well, if you decide to go back to college, would you possibly go back to Illinois? And this was his answer, which I found very interesting myself. Coleman said, they got a whole new roster coming in. I don't think it would be fair for me to come back in that place with all those guys expecting me not to be there, Hawkins said. I mean, I've done 4 years at Illinois. I'm now an Illinois grad. I've put my heart and soul into Illinois for the last 4 years. So, I mean, it would be cool to go back one more year, but I just don't think it would be the right thing to do. Not just for myself, but for the staff and the people coming in. Now, does that sound like a guy who's preparing to come back to the Fighting Illini next year? Let's be honest. Coleman last year decided to test the NBA waters, and he did not put his name in the transfer portal. He's made this very clear that his dad, Rod Hawkins, did mention that he should have done that. And because Coleman knew that he wanted to come back to Illinois, he kind of put himself at a disadvantage and struck the NIL deal with Illinois without really fielding any offers. This year, not so much. This year, obviously, he wants to play in the NBA, and I think the best case scenario for all Illinois fans is that's exactly what he does. But right now, according to the mock drafts I've been looking at, he's really not even listed in the top 75 prospects. And this is not a very deep draft. In fact, this is considered one of the worst drafts in a very long time. So maybe Coleman gets drafted, but what are we looking at? The most optimistic scenario is him getting a two-way deal. A two-way deal in the NBA pays, I believe, $560,000. Now, that's a lot of money for you, and that's certainly a lot of money for me, but that's not necessarily a lot of money for what college players make these days. There was a kid, Good Osmoro, I believe his name was, a couple days ago. He was a 7th ranked transfer portal player. He decided to sign on with the Washington Huskies, our new Big Ten brethren. And reportedly, when it comes to the NIL, he got $2 million. Now, $2 million is a lot of money. And as good as this player is, and he is a great player, Coleman Hawkins is going to be able to fetch a price, if not at that price, somewhere near. North Carolina could use a guy like Coleman Hawkins. If you listen to the UConn folks, they could use a player like Coleman Hawkins. Coleman Hawkins needs to go out and take care of himself, take care of his family. There's a lot of money that's to be made. And anytime you listen to a conversation between him or Brad Underwood talking about Coleman, this split is very amicable. Everyone is satisfied. Coleman said it in the quote I referenced earlier when he talked about the different roster and the different players that Brad Underwood has already brought in. Brad can't just sit around and wait around for Coleman to make his decision and have the entire transfer portal pass. Brad's made moves himself. He's brought a lot of guys in the front court. Ben Hummerkaus is probably going to be the guy playing power forward for the Illini this year. Tomislav Ivicic, the big 7-footer from Croatia, is going to be the starting center. And then you also have what many consider the future Coleman Hawkins in Notre Dame forward, Kerry Booth, who transferred over from Notre Dame. Now, these are guys who obviously probably signed on with the Illini with the expectations that they were going to play prominent minutes. And more than likely, they received some prominent NIL funds. Brad Underwood did his job, and his job is to prep the Illini to be as successful as possible every single season. And now, well, now it's time for Coleman Hawkins to do the same. Coleman may not have an opportunity to make $2 million ever again. And if he chooses to come back to college, he's already talked about that. He's not going to go to a Big Ten rival. He's not going to go to the Big East. He wants to go to a team where he can not only compete, but he can also watch a football game. So he's been very clear about what his aspirations are. But Coleman, and I say this as one of your biggest supporters, one of your biggest fans, go do your thing. And even if it's not in an Illini uniform, you're still an Illini for life. All right. FanDuel. It's a winner-take-all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets and any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. The Illini football team made some news this week with the hiring of new cornerbacks coach Corey Parker from the state of Michigan. Now, Parker's emergence or hiring came about because the guy that he's replacing, David Gibbs, decided to leave a couple of weeks ago due to a medical condition. Now, if you recall, Gibbs was replacing Antonio Fenellis, who was a single-year cornerbacks coach for Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini football team. Fenellis, and again, I apologize if I mispronounce that name. If you get to watch the show often, you'll see that I make that mistake very often. I'm not very good phonetically until someone tells me what it sounds like. It may take me a couple tries, but Fenellis didn't work out. Our defense was one of the worst in the country last year, and for that reason, Brett Bielema decided to make a change, and he brought in David Gibbs. And Gibbs was considered a veteran presence. He was someone who, with a rough year that Aaron Henry had in his debut as a defensive coordinator, we thought could kind of be, a guy, a sounding board. As I say, a veteran presence, which Aaron Gordon kind of lean on for guidance. Obviously, ultimately, it didn't work out. Gibbs, I believe, is staying on as an analyst. Don't hold me to that, but Brett did say that he wasn't going to fill the job until the conclusion of spring practices. He wanted to kind of wait it out, see how the players played, and just really focus on their development before he wanted to make that hire. And then, as I said, this week is when Corey Parker was hired. Corey Parker was coaching cornerbacks at Toledo the last couple of seasons. And if I'm going to be completely honest, when this hiring was announced, I was a bit underwhelmed. The reason being, I knew nothing about him. But the more I'm reading about him, the more I'm starting to think that this could have been a home run hire. Now, to give you a little backdrop on Parker, he coached high school in Michigan, and he took over the River Rouge, I believe was the name of his high school. In 2009, they finished 2-7. And he followed that up by having 12 straight years of taking his football team to the playoffs. And in that time, he became a star in Michigan. He became a guy that all college coaches would come and visit because he was producing talent. He's a big name in that Michigan community, and that's a big deal. Obviously, he had higher aspirations, and so he joined Toledo. And if you recall, the NFL draft just happened, and the first cornerback taken was Quinyon Mitchell, a cornerback from Toledo, coached by Coach Parker. He's not only a developer of talent, which we've seen from his success in high school and his success in putting players to the NFL, but he's also a guy who can relate to players. There's a new video of him, I think it was from a couple years ago at a camp, which I'll try to post in the description if I recall, if I remember. It's just, when I watched it, he was so relatable and he was so energizing. He had me wanting to run through a wall. And you can see why players like him, why younger guys are drawn to him. Now, are there drawbacks to all this? Yeah. Main one I'm thinking about is, again, my biggest issue with last season was Aaron Henry. I don't think the defense played up to the par that we kind of hoped that it would. Was Aaron over his head? I like the idea of David Gibbs coming to coach here because, again, he would have brought years of experience into that defensive locker room. He could have been a sounding board. He could have offered feedback. Bringing in a guy like Parker is not going to do that. Parker's been a coach for 2 years at the collegiate level. So right now, we're kind of banking on Aaron Henry making a big jump in year number 2. I mean, he has to. If he doesn't, Brett's going to have a very difficult decision to make this season. At the conclusion of the season, at least. Him and Henry are very close. But at the same time, Brett has established that if he sees a weakness, relationship doesn't necessarily matter. His number one priority is to win football games. And winning football games is something I think Coach Parker can ultimately help the Illini do. As I said, he's a prominent name up in Michigan. And he's a name where at any point you are automatically going to be mentioned with all the Michigan prospects just because of his name alone. And that matters because Michigan produces a lot of talent. And so, is he a rising star in the coaching ranks? It sounds like it. Honestly, he sounds kind of like a even younger version of Aaron Henry. If you recall, Aaron Henry was considered a future star in the coaching professions, and I still think he can be. I think we're going to find out very soon. Again, we're talking about Brett has basically banked his defense this upcoming season. Maybe he's thinking that he'll have a little bit more influence back there. He'll be in the locker room. He'll be helping guide whatever defensive schemes we decide to move forward. He wanted young, hungry guys back there. You know what? Again, we're just getting to know each other, but if you follow me from my other show, Illini Cast, I believe in Brett. And I will say that while a little late, I love this hire of Coach Parker, and I think we're going to do a fantastic job. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to the elephant in the room. You're probably all trying to figure out who I am. First and foremost, again, thank you so much for joining me at Locked On Illini. I figure if I'm going to ask you to join me every single day here on this channel, the least I can do is kind of give you my background and tell you how I kind of fit into this whole show and how I got involved. Again, my name is Sunny Verma, and I started off as a fan of the Fighting Illini. One of my first favorite players I remember watching in college basketball is Keywan Garris. I feel like there's going to be a substantial portion of you who may not even remember who that was. But I started off as a fan. I was fortunate enough later in life to also become an alum. I've been a season ticket holder to both the men's and women's basketball team, the football team, and even the volleyball team. My journey here to Locked On started February 24th, 2023. It was a snowy Chicago evening. I was in the process of placing my son in a car seat when a vehicle which was driving by lost control and hit me in the process. As a result, I suffered 13 staples to the head, 26 stitches, a fracture on my spine, a knee sprain, and unfortunately, a severe concussion. So what does this have to do with Locked On Illini? Well, because of the concussion, I was having some severe issues communicating. And after meeting with some of the top specialists in the area, I was encouraged to really try to express myself and communicate and really stimulate the brain, and thus kind of started my journey as a content creator. Some of you are following me here because you're familiar with my work on Illini Cast. Illini Cast was started back in August as an outlet for me and my co-host Austin Berkland to discuss what was going on with both the Illini football and basketball teams. We did weekly shows for about an hour and just kind of talked back and forth with other Illini fans. Another portion of the audience watching today know me from the Big Ten show right here on YouTube, where I, along with Justin Adams, produce weekly episodes discussing all the major stories going on with the Big Ten Conference. Between the two shows, I produced over a couple hundred episodes with some of the biggest names in both the Illini and the Big Ten space. And some of you are finding me for the first time, either because of my incredible SEO skills, or more likely because you're an Illini fan and the algorithm has somehow put this show in front of you. Whatever it is, I'm grateful. My plan for this channel is to provide you content every single day from all the major Illinois athletic departments. Whether it's following Brad Underwood as he tries to lead the basketball team to another Elite Eight run, or Brett Bielema trying to lay a consistent winning atmosphere on the football side. Or it's even watching Shauna Green complete an incredible turnaround that she's done with the women's basketball team. You'll find it here. And that's not it. I want you to think of this as your show. I'm so proud of this Illini community that I've come to build, and I welcome you to it. I want to know what you want to hear. This is your show. Find me on Twitter at IlliniCast, or leave any questions or comments on whichever platforms you're watching this from. I want to thank you for joining me today, and am excited to get to know all of you as we experience the ups and downs of the Fighting Illini every single day together. A special shout out to Ryan Herrings from Locked On Badgers, Hayes from Locked On Bulls, Justin Adams and Austin Berkland, my two hosts I mentioned before. Without them, I would not be able to be sitting here in front of you today. I'm super excited about Locked On. I'm super excited about the Illini. And I hope that this is a journey that you'll be joining with me every day moving forward. And I'm excited about it. I hope you are too. That's enough for now. Tomorrow, we're going to be discussing Terrence Brooks. We'll be talking a little football. We'll be talking a little baseball. There's a big baseball weekend ahead. And until then, ILL. Love you guys.